Good morning, Renee. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Mahia. I am good. It's a little humid in Florida today, and it's starting to get back into the hot temperatures. But it's beautiful. And we had two rocket launches yesterday. It was busy in the Space
I
Center
remember
yesterday.
because I think you can see the rocket launches from wherever you from your
Hmm.
from your place, right?
Yep.
If I
Hmm.
remember correctly. Yeah?
Yep. Yeah. So we had two
That's
yesterday. Well, technically, one was at 1 in the morning this morning. So it was one yesterday and one today. But yeah.
okay.
Did
But
you
did
have
you
a nice
actually
Valentine's Day?
Yes, I went. It's this year was a very special situation because we had both uh, Ash Wednesday. I don't know if you've heard about
Hmm.
this,
Yep.
right? So it's like a very restrictive day for the Catholics.
Hmm.
You can only eat 3 times a day, and only once you can eat a full meal. Okay,
Hmm.
and you should restrict yourself from any celebration, sort of. So I've done a little bit of a half-half. So in the evening, we went with my wife for a walk, and we walked into the little restaurant. Everything was fully booked, so like hundreds of people, and but the guy
Yeah.
was very kind, and he gave us a possibility to sit down and have a small dinner and a chat together. So I really enjoyed that. It was nice. It was
Very
really
nice.
really nice. And what about yourself?
Very nice. Um, well, I had a tea tasting for a couple, and it was very nice. It's very nice to see. I was hosting them as part of our tea business. And, my husband and I were going to go to the movies, but by the time I finished the tea tasting, I was exhausted. So I was like, the best Valentine's gift is to go home.
Nice,
Um,
nice,
but
nice. It's
my daughter,
okay.
my daughter got her driver's license, her official license, no longer a permit. Now she can drive on her own. That's
You gonna
frightening.
give her a car? Or you gonna let her
She has
drive?
one. Yeah, I bought her a car. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. I, my oldest daughter also she just turned 18, a couple of
Uh-huh.
days ago, and she's now also able to apply for a driver's license. Uh, but first, she needs to finish the high school. That's the number
Mm.
one priority. And then during vacation, she's planning to take some lessons and get the driver's license. We'll see how it goes. We have a couple of people online. I'm wondering if anybody wants to
Say
say hello to
hello.
us.
Say
No?
hello,
Oh,
everybody.
I'm sorry. It's the delay, Renee. When I say stuff, then it's like 10, 15 seconds before people actually hear me. So I always forget about it. So you guys, if you're out there and you want to say hello, we can see it in our little comments box. So but I see that there's a couple of people, in the room, so in the stream. So hopefully we will hear. Yes, David. Hello, David. How are
Hola,
you doing
David.
today? Good morning, David. And
Jose.
Joselia. Oh my goodness,
Alan.
Alan is there as well. Hey, so it is a big
Valdivia. Alan
delay.
from Mexico. Yeah. Remember the doing a lot of work in
Of
distribution?
course,
Kenya.
MSP's
Good
program.
morning,
And
Kenya.
Kenya is here as well with us. Great crowd, guys. Welcome, and we are ready to talk about the law of connection with Renee. The law of connection, which is extremely important. It's not only one of the great ones, interesting ones, but it's also a very, very, very important one, and the one um, that is I don't think it's being really appreciated by a lot of managers right
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because all of the people on the line, right, are very tightly connected to one or both of us, right? And that's because we took the time to genuinely connect, interact, care about the individuals on the line, beyond just their work persona and their work product. And I think a lot of leaders hesitate because, oh, that's their personal life, or um, one thing is to have respect for someone's personal life, and another one is to have some genuine empathy and care for what the person cares about and what motivates them and what they define success as. So I definitely think that as a leader, it's important that you genuinely take interest in understanding what those drivers are for people.
Yes. So first, the definition of the law of connection. The law of connection says that you should connect with your team on a very, very personal level, right? It's not just a automated exercise, or it's not
Mhm,
just work. If you
mhm,
want, if you want to work with people, with your employees, your subordinates, whatever you're gonna call them, your team members. I think it's this. We used to use a team member
yeah.
uh, state. If you want to connect, if you want to really be a very effective leader, you need to absolutely connect with people on a personal level. You need to, stop the separation of the private from work, and you need to step outside of your comfort zone and really build this relationship with people.
Mhm,
And I think many of the young managers, so if you are currently thinking about, if one of our viewers, if you are currently thinking about, you know being elevated to become a people manager, if you want to be the first people manager, many people managers, when they become a people manager, when the people many first time people managers make this error because they feel elevated, they feel
mhm.
more important now because they became a manager, and they start treating everybody else a little bit, like below them. And I think this is a big mistake right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and the principal thought there that comes to my mind is when you're elevated into a leadership position, it's really so that your job primarily now is to take care of your people, right? And to be there to make sure that they have the right amount of resources, that they're uh, comfortable, happy, they can succeed, create the environment that allows them to flourish rather than, oh, I'm the boss of you and I'm going to tell you what to do, right? That's a very immature look at leadership. And that goes back to, remember when we were having our different characters and personas? That's really more of that manager, that authoritarian person that says, you do this because I tell you, right? That's not leading, right? That is, managing a task.
Jose Elias, the best way to
Yeah,
create genuinity connection with team members is outside the conference room. It's
absolutely.
outside work, I think,
Yeah.
Jose Elias. It's not only outside the conference, it's outside of the office.
Mhm.
And I think, that's why it's super important that we not only connect in the office, but we also go and do something together outside. I totally agree with you, and I'm sure, Renee, you have a lot of examples of, how you organize stuff, and for the team. I always wanted to do things around the official part of the job that were completely
Mhm.
unofficial. Whenever I traveled to Houston, I would go and take my team for a dinner, and for some team building exercises. We used to go and do some bouldering together because I know how to do it. So I wanted to share with my team, my passion, and things that I really like to do outside of work, and they would do the same. I remember Vera took us once for the karaoke. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I was singing there. There is a video somewhere that I
I'm
hope
so
is never
sorry.
gonna it's never gonna it's never gonna be played on LinkedIn, I hope.
She's looking for it right now.
But I think those dinners, those events, those kind of activities that are being done, are simply super important. Not just because we want to have a free drink, right?
Right. Um, I some of my fondest memories, and you're always going to talk about work, but some of my fondest memories are when we are sharing things outside of the office. Our picture, so for those of you who are listening, right, Magic and I prep for this call. It's not just like he hits live and so we do some preparation, right? And Magic was this earlier this week. It's like, need a picture of us. And it's the law of connection. So for those that know me well, I take a lot of pictures. And I went into my Google archives, and you know how Google lets you select the face of the person. So I actually have my pictures with the different faces categorized. And Magic had his own bubble. He's had his own little bubble for a long time. And so I click on the little bubble, and it went back, and it pulled all the pictures that had Magic in and me in the pictures. And one of the ones that I found, and I sent it to him, I'm like, I love this one. There you go. It's the boba picture. And we'll tell you a little bit about the boba place. But this was, yeah, we were working, but we were outside of the office, and it was actually something that we were doing for the community that was really meaningful. And that's one of I have a lot of fond memories with Magic, but the boba was an experience. Magic didn't even know what it was. He had never had it, and it was a really fun bonding moment. So tell them, Magic, about your boba experience.
No, I didn't know what boba is. The first time we went there, and they told us, it's we need to go and give it a try, and we went there, and it was this boba up
Mhm.
concept where you basically go and mix and match different kind of ingredients to create your own um, customized boba tea. And I knew only that my daughters do that, so it was not only a possibility for me to experience it for the first time, but experience for the first time something that my daughters like, and that was super important. Finally, I could relate to them with this. It was fun. There were more. For me, one of those kind of a great connection points. I remember a few from the recent past. The Munich trip, Renee.
Yes,
What do you
that
remember from
was,
the Munich trip?
well, I remember that I almost died in Ozer's car. So I didn't really die, but of course, clearly I'm here. But Ozer, I always complain. So for those that follow us, I complain about Magic's driving skills. And I in that moment was praying to be in Magic's car where I would have been. I think at least I knew what I was getting into. But Ozer, who I adore, and he's so funny, and we're driving in the Autobahn, and he's going like 100 miles, and he's arguing with the people in the back about the Swedish fish that he wanted. I'm like, focus on the road. So that was very fun. But you really learn a lot about people's when their guards are down, right? You learn about people's true sense of humor, true motivating factors, and really when you know that and you bring that into the boardroom. So let's step back into the boardroom, you are much better equipped at being able to communicate more clearly and to communicate with empathy and to achieve greater results. So, yeah.
I think it just builds a certain additional layers of connection.
Mhm.
This kind of outside of the work environment, and it's important because when people know and like each other, when they start liking each other, it's much easier to go through the bumps where the times are starting to
Yeah.
be tough. And I'm not just
Mhm.
talking about difficult situations like Cisco yesterday announced that they are going to they are going to trim the workforce by 5%. So obviously
Oof.
at Cisco there will be a difficult time. VMware has been going recently through some layoffs as well.
Mhm.
This is tough times, but I'm not even talking about such a tough times. I'm even talking about situation when you have a very a project where people disagree with each other.
Yeah.
It's much easier to disagree with someone who you like, generally speaking.
Mhm.
I mean, you and I, we disagree all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it never leads to any
Yeah.
complete disconnect, because at the same time as we disagree about stuff, we are looking for a connection points. We are looking for a situations when both
Common
of us
ground. Mhm.
common ground, right? Something
Mhm.
that will bring us together. So I think this is super important. Also, Elias, our friend, even a coffee at the cafeteria with the golden rule of
Yeah.
don't talk about work. Uh, yes, it's not talking about work, or at least not talking about work in a work environment. I mean, you can do a little bit of a gossip about others, and still get connected. But generally speaking, Jose Elias, it's true. You need to kind of a step away from the everyday working environment, and really talk about maybe some other things. As a leader, you should probably get interested in your employees family situation.
Mhm.
Okay, because it helps. It helps to understand. There were employees in my organization in the past that were going through the divorce. Okay,
Mhm.
somebody's going through the divorce, and you see the drop in the performance. It's kind of you need to, it could be a fantastic performer just going through a rough period in their lives. Okay,
Yeah.
or maybe like me, somebody has three teenagers going through their teenage time. It's all
We're magic. Three teenage girls. Never mind if it's girls and boys. It's three girls.
it helps you to understand the challenge. And as I said, this pitfall, this challenge could be coming to the people that were just promoted to become a manager, and they just feel a little bit more important. Step down from your pedestal
Yeah.
and connect with your team, and make sure that they feel comfortable around you. Otherwise they won't tell you when things are bad.
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
uh, that's that's the recommendation, I guess. But I think it's also true for this very senior leaders that are so overwhelmed that sometimes they don't take time to reconnect with individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super important thing. Super important
And
thing.
you raised something interesting, right? Unfortunately, I've witnessed this situation where you have people that now, let's say, get promoted to a VP level, and
Hmm.
they don't talk to anybody else within the organization that doesn't have a VP title, right? Beyond a hello or a nod. But some don't even barely do that, right? And you see them in the cafeterias or when they go to the group dinners and events, and they all just stay together with the senior leaders. And that's such a mistake. I heard a word today which reminded me of that, right? Elitist. When you get into this elitist mindset that you are now a VP or a senior VP, or you're the CEO and you don't talk to anybody that's not below this level. Sorry, I'll be back. You keep talking about that and I'll be back.
I agree. I agree with Renee, and you guys might comment on this as well. Um, I was always upset whenever in the meetings, like the all hands meetings, or meetings they created when I became a VP, and they created this special area for the senior leadership, and there was this like an event, and there was a better seating reserved for the senior leadership, and senior leaders were sitting together, everybody else was somewhere else. And I was like scratching my head, saying I'd rather be with my team, because then we could discuss what the meeting is all about. I could really understand what they feel, what they feel about the story, what they feel about the message from the senior leadership. I don't want to be in this bubble somewhere else, sitting with the senior leaders, and then everybody over there was kind of a little bit stiff and important. I never enjoyed feeling important, I guess, Rena. I don't know.
John Maxwell, as many of you know, right, that I love, he talks about this concept of walking through the crowd, right? And really, instead of separating yourself in, remember how you described that the policemen surrounded you guys after your charity event and you were going into the station, into the radio
Yeah,
station, right? You see some leaders that that's what they do, right? They surround themselves with their little army of bodyguards or handlers, as they're called, um, so that they separate them from the crowd. And a, a leader should always be seeking to be in the middle of the crowd, right? To really be connected to what's going on in the organization, and get the feedback, not just through the surveys that are anonymous, through the, different employee engagement surveys and so forth, but really firsthand, being able to connect. I am a big fan of doing what I call skip level discussions, where I basically randomly talk to different people that are in 2, 3 layers below in the organization, because I want to understand what messages are trickling down and what messages are not. And I want to have a really good understanding of what their day to day challenges as an employee are. Because a lot of times, the higher you go, the less you know, right? Because people start putting, they don't want to give you the bad news, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, right? They want to hide certain things from you. And by the time the message, the telephone game, by the time the message gets to you, everything's rosy, everything's great, right? But that's not
beautiful.
the case.
Yeah, and the other way around, Rene. I always encouraged my team and anybody that I coached or mentored, go and reach out. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
do the skip level. I mean, I always said to my team, talk to my boss. Don't be
Mm-hmm.
afraid talking to my boss. And
Mm-hmm.
I maintained also the connection with people that I got promoted like 1 or 2 layers above, and I still stayed, kept my one-on-one with them on a regular
Mm-hmm.
basis,
Mm-hmm.
just to stay connected, because we became friends, not because and because I was promoted. It didn't change anything. It didn't change
Mm-hmm.
much. I
Mm-hmm.
remember, and George Hope was great with that, because I remember scheduling conversations for him with my direct reports, or the reports of my direct reports. I
Mm-hmm.
would schedule it 15 minutes, tell George
Yeah.
what you think. Just introduce yourself, say a few words, make sure that you understand his message, and just connect with him. He was a big senior vice president of channels, but always open to discuss. Tim
Mm-hmm.
Peters was like that as well. He was always open to a conversation. So I, I I I always encourage my team, not only that I look down, but I also down
Mm-hmm.
the layers of the
Yeah.
organization. But I also always encouraged my team and my organization to look up and connect further up. Um, I even remember, I think the best moment, one of the best moments was, you remember
Mm-hmm.
Monza Jimenez,
Mm-hmm.
who I believe is still
Ran your
running at
social media. Yep.
the social media. We've challenged her that when Antonio comes to Guadalajara, she
Uh-huh.
needs to go and talk to Antonio.
Uh-huh.
And she went there. And she went with her mobile phone and a selfie stick. And she went to Antonio and she said, like, I want to ask you about, the engage and grow. And you could see, that her hand was shaking as she was holding the phone, recording herself with him. And she asked him the question. And I think, that's the first step, that is super important. Just don't be afraid, because he was very happy to talk to her and answer the questions and everything. So
Yeah.
I just believe that this is an important moment.
I do also think that you have to be in an environment and an organization that doesn't punish that, because there are companies, there are managers, there are people that when the employees are trying to look up and reach up and talk to leaders above, um, that's not welcomed, right? And interestingly enough, as I researched the millennials and now the zillennials, they are very title agnostic. They think of the world as flat hierarchies. Well, that's an oxymoron. So they don't. There are no hierarchies in their world, right? They feel very entitled, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but they feel very entitled to approach and go to anyone and ask any question. I think it's generally good, but if the person that is being approached isn't open to that, it could really scar that employee's experience with that particular organization because they'll never do it
or
again.
if the or if the skip level one-on-one is being blocked by your level
Yeah,
that you are trying to skip,
yeah.
that is something I experienced that a few times that in the
Hmm.
past, where my boss was not happy that I went to somebody like one or two layers above him
Yeah.
just to have a conversation, and I was very very puzzled, okay, because
Hmm.
why? I'm
Hmm.
not gonna undermine your position, and again,
Right.
your employees, encourage them to go further up the chain, the organizational change. They are not going to undermine your position, and if they can undermine your position, then you have a
You
much
have
bigger
bigger
problem than
problems.
the fact that
Yeah.
your employee is going to talk to your boss. That means that
Hmm.
you have a bigger problem than that. That's it, it will blow one way or the other anyway. So you might as well, you know, at least have your team behind your back when
Yeah.
when you have other problems, right? So yeah, so that's one of the reasons or dimensions. We spoke about new managers being promoted that might forget to connect. We spoke about senior leaders that are forgetting to stay connected.
Hmm.
I think Jose Arias reminded us that coffee is important. I think any type of activities outside of office, outside of work, are important, and there's a variety of things. And I want to say one more thing, because many times people think like, hey, you guys went on this Munich trip, and the famous Munich trip, or you went to the karaoke event, or you went to this or that. This is costing the company money. Okay. If I would get a question like that, I always have two answers. Okay. Answer number one is, why did you assume that it was company money?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because many times people are happy to chip in. And
Yeah, and
if
pay it
as a
themselves.
leader
Yep.
you if as a leader you generate a situation um, when people are happy to contribute their own dollars to
Hmm.
an outside of work, you know, activity, then you have
Hmm.
achieved something really, really special with your organization.
Yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
not saying that you should shift the money over, the payment over to your people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is, there are moments in the organizational life where your budget is super, super tight. And if your team comes back to you and says, we would like to meet together, and don't worry about the budget, right? This time it's on us. You've,
Hmm.
you've actually
Yeah.
created the right level of connection. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, and 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 the second answer that I would give to this kind of a question, or somebody questioning me about this kind of a situation, is, any dollar that you invest in a company should have a return on investment. I think those dinners, I mean, unless you do them every day in a very fancy restaurant, which I wouldn't encourage, okay?
Yeah.
If you go for a dinner once every couple of months with your team, it's probably a dollar that is extremely well invested, honestly saying. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be lavish, and doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
Hmm.
Uh, I guess if you can take your team to a not so fancy restaurant and they are still having fun together, that means that they are. It's even better, right? That means that they are there not for the fancy restaurant, but for the collaboration. Hmm?
Well, and even where there's a will, there's a way, right? And I remember some members of my team coming to Florida, to Orlando, not very far from my house. And I invited them to my house, right? And I I bought the meats, and I don't do alcohol, so it was sodas. Marco, who you know, Marco's a great griller. So he was grilling outside in the barbecue, and we had a great time. It didn't cost the company any money, right? But again, we did that multiple times, and we have great memories as a result. Because of what you said, right? Is also when you create a certain environment, people are happy to give their time, not just their, because Marco would have said, oh, well, you guys figure it out and find someone to grill the meat. Right? No, we were just looking forward to spending time together as a team because we genuinely enjoyed each other. Now, don't get me wrong, right? There were plenty of people that I worked with that I did not like very much, right? Um, and you still have to build relationships with those people, right? You get paid to be effective collaborators. And I'm not saying that everyone has to be your best friend, but you should develop a civil relationship that allows you to deliver consistent, positive organizational results. That's what you
It
get
has to
paid
be
for.
both ways, right,
Yeah.
Renee? It has to be
Hmm.
both ways. So, you keep on trying, but obviously, if the
Yeah.
other party doesn't want to collaborate with
Engage.
you, it's difficult. You
Hmm.
and by the way, you are in a tougher position if you are the manager, because
Hmm.
if you cannot build a personal relationship
Yeah.
with your team, if you cannot build a strong connection with your team, it will bite you back more than if you are an employee and you cannot create a personal connection with your manager. Okay,
Hmm.
that is
Yeah.
more problem. That is more problem than the other way around.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering because there are a couple of people listening to us. Obviously, Jose Elias, Kenya, Alan. Do you
You have
guys have any memories, any particular situation that you remember that there was a good example of how the manager has built a connection with you, with your team? If you do, it would be great to hear from you. Um, I just remember that Rene took me once for the airboats when I came to Florida. It was great, Rene. Airboats,
Yes.
right? It's
Yeah.
airboats?
Airboat. Yeah. We have a picture of that too. We went to the
The only
airboats
one.
and Magic saw the crocodiles. It
Absolutely. Absolutely.
was
It was
very
a
cool.
nice trip. It was a nice trip. You took me also to your place. I'll never
Yes.
forget that and your tea shop. That's
Yeah.
how you build a connection. So guys, if you're hearing us and you want to share any of your examples of a great event that your manager has put together, either right now or when you watch the replay of our conversation, yeah,
Let us know.
it would be great. Let us
Yeah.
know.
I have one with Jose Elias. It turns out in one event that his wife's birthday is very close to my own. So I got to share a cake and a happy birthday celebration with Jose Elias's wife and some of his team members. And that was very memorable. So, ooh, Kenya gave us also a memory. Let's see.
Connections to make things happen and reach team goals. Great when you have friends and they are not friends. It's okay too. Yes, of course. You don't need to love each other. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
very difficult, but you know, in my experience, the hate, the disconnect, the rough relationship many times at work, not in a private
Hmm.
life, but at
Hmm.
work many times could come from the not knowing each other very well. I've seen situations where people maybe didn't like each other too much, but after getting to know each other a little bit better, and you as a manager should be facilitating that, they started to appreciate each other.
Hmm.
Mm. Alan, I thought having skip level sessions with director a couple of years ago was something everyone implemented in our industry, but now I realize this was more of a personal touch to connect with the team. True, Alan,
Isn't that sad? It should be a standard.
should be a standard.
Yeah.
should be a standard by all means, you know. Alexandra,
Alexandra.
hello. When I visited my manager location after a year of working for the company and with him, he reached the office almost after working hours, and at the Christmas party, he did not join his team but stayed with the co-workers. This is not the story about the best manager. It is not, okay? It is
Yeah.
not.
That's the
Uh,
example, right? That you get in and you kind of stay only with the coworkers that are in your same level. So you create this separation, this elitist separation. And imagine, Alexandra, you had worked for that person for over a year and never, I mean, that's just so sad. More
yeah,
for the manager than for you, but yeah.
hopefully he learned something or she learned something from this exercise, because honestly saying that's not a long term in that's not a long term strategy. I think, or I wish. I'm a I love my ideas. You know, I'm an idealist. Idealist.
Idealist, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I believe strongly in those things about about really connecting with people. Any other examples? I'm just checking, on online if there is anything popping up still. Oh, okay. Also,
Oh,
Elias, a tea and coffee that I had with Renee at the HP Houston headquarters, but we only talk about our families. You see?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I have one question that I ask everyone that tells me, I want to be a people leader. And I ask them, do you love people in general? Not a person. Do you love people? And, I get this puzzled look like, I love my family. And I'm like, well, so if you don't really love people, you might want to rethink your strategy of or your decision to be a people leader, right? Because a lot of people want to be a people leader just to say, I'm the boss. Well, being the boss comes with the responsibility that you carry on your shoulders for those people's well being. And if that's not how you're looking at leadership, I think you should rethink your position, right?
Then it's a temporary people management job. That's not probably not
Oh,
gonna last.
look at
Renee,
Kate.
Mark grilling dinner.
Yeah,
you
let's
were you
make
went
it
to the
clear.
airports.
Marco was the one grilling dinner because Renee doesn't do cooking. But yes.
Neither. One thing that I'm really terrible at, it's cooking. I'm not very proud of my cooking skills, honestly, Rena.
Good.
In my family, there's a joke. There's only one dish that I ever made, and it was the knight's dish.
The what?
The knights, like the medieval fighters,
Oh,
the
like
knights,
the knights. Uh-huh,
the
uh-huh. Like the
knights dish.
knights in shining armor. Okay.
Yeah, because I made pasta with eggs, but with a lot of marketing around this, and my daughters loved it. They were sitting there, and I was like, telling them, like, I'm adding the teeth of the dragon, and I'm adding the
That's hilarious. Oh,
the
that's so nice
snake,
though.
and they were looking at that, and that was just a simple pasta with eggs. And then, my
Oh,
wife came from work, and they were like, Daddy made the most fantastic dish ever. You wouldn't believe, the most fantastic. And my wife was like, you made something for them? What was it? A knight's dish.
a knight's dish.
Yes.
Let's see what we have from David. Oh, yes. I remember.
Yeah, that's true. When Rene would have skip levels, it made me scream at first. A lot of people do, and again, that's why I encourage you. You should talk when you are a people manager, or you will become a people manager. Encourage people to talk to your boss. They are
Yeah,
not going to put you in the. I mean, if they can put you in at
in
risk,
a bad
you
light.
have bigger problems than that,
Yeah.
than the skip level one-on-one. Believe me.
But David brings up a good point, right? Is also historically, some leaders want to do skip levels to find poke holes to find about their managers that report to them to try and maybe get them out of the role or something like that. And that is the entirely wrong. If there is something wrong, and I would get complaints, right? Oh, this person, I don't like the way they do this and that. I always saw it and I approached it as a coaching opportunity, right? Because again, my job was really to serve my people, my managers, my second, third level, whatever the levels. No one's perfect, right? Whenever I would get a critique, oh, David DeRosa is X, Y, or C. Okay. What would you suggest, Mr. Employee, to help him improve? Maybe I can send him to a course and whatever, right? So I think it's important that the boss in that situation is also having the back of their people. Because if they use the situation to punish versus coach, that's very destructive.
But again, if this happens, that you have bigger problem, you have a boss that is this on your back, and
Right,
it's trying to get rid of you. The
right.
fact that he's not going to meet this, you're going to prevent meeting with your employees. He's not going to stop this. It might delay it by a little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
but
you're
you are
right.
better off already seeking for someone else, and then your employees being a strong support for you could be your biggest jumping board, right?
Yep,
Springboard to your
yep.
next position. So I think it's important to know.
But it's also a reminder, right? If you're a middle manager, you have a responsibility to build connection in both directions. You build connection with your own boss and you build connection with your people. It has to happen, and with your peers, right? So you almost have to really, especially when you work at companies as large as the companies we've worked for, that there's a lot of layers of management, right? And so you really have to be mindful that you're always building bridges and relationships and connections with everybody, the people in legal, the people in finance, the people in operations too, right? It's not just your boss. It's some of those people that are going to help the shipment get out or the quote get released, right? Or the pricing to be approved. So it's valuable in many scenarios.
Correct. It's not only for the your layers within the organization, it's also across the different
Mhm.
connections. Okay, so summarize. Up to the stage,
Our beautiful
and
slide. Yes.
a beautiful slide. Maybe let's make it bigger this
Like
time.
this. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. So the law of connection, uh, it is emphasizing the importance of leaders to establish genuine, and I really mean it, genuine personal connections with their followers before starting to quote unquote lead them, if you will.
Mhm.
So I think in the Maxwell book, you will find a mention of touching hearts before holding hands, or asking for
Mhm.
hands,
Yeah.
as an expression uh, to relate uh, and connect with people on a personal level. And it's important to use to be empathetic, to communicate, as we typically tell you in those sessions. Uh, this will help you to connect with people, show interest, and the trust and the collaboration will create a loyalty and a flow of information much better, uh, and it will make you a much more effective leader in
Mhm.
return.
Absolutely. And with that, we want to thank you for your wonderful active participation. We really appreciate it. Share
Yes,
it with
thank
your
you so much.
friends. Yes. Yes.
Like, share, and comment. No,
Yes.
comment,
Comment
share, and like.
and comment, share, and like. Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll speak to you next week about the next law.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.